any of those fashions. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Let me wrap up the recruiting report for tonight. One more football note to pass along, and that is that Emerald tight end Luke Deal tells us he has set an official visit to Auburn for April 28th. He was at NC State this past weekend. He's got a couple of other official visits coming up over the next couple of weeks, and then he goes to Auburn April 28th, and he will announce his decision after his last spring practice in May. Now I had some basketball for you. Of course, the spring signing period commences on Wednesday. USC commitments, Jermaine Couisnard said today that he will be signing with South Carolina on Wednesday between 11:30 and noon, committed back in January. And also on Wednesday, USC will sign 6'9" Alonzo Frink of Roselle, New Jersey. Don't have a time on that yet. 6'11" Malcolm Wilson of Ridgeview. This is 2019. Recently was offered by Georgia Tech. He'll visit Georgetown unofficially April 23rd. Clemson, USC are among the schools keeping in touch. He's also hearing from VCU, UMass, Tennessee, Syracuse, Baylor, and Florida. Upstate, grad transfer guard Mike Cunningham visited Tulane officially over the weekend. Said it went very good. Really liked the place and everything they have to offer. He is scheduled to visit Oklahoma April 19th and Louisville April 25th. And in baseball, 2018 outfielder right-hander Will Buffet of AC Flora committed to Clemson last night, hitting .435, 3 homers, 13 RBIs, 16 stolen bases this season. On the mound, 2-2, 2.49 ERA, 29 strikeouts in 19 2/3 innings. I want to go back to Mike Cunningham.
About to say Mike Cunningham. Oh, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to go back to the grad transfer thing.
Oh, okay.
But what were you going to say about Cunningham?
No, of course, the head coach at Tulane is Mike Dunleavy.
That's right.
And the one thing I understand about him is he's a great on-the-ball defender, is what I've read.
Yeah. This, again, the grad transfer rule has just opened up a completely new avenue for college basketball players.
You don't like it, do you?
Well, on the one hand, I don't like it. On the other hand, I hate sitting on the fence because that causes a lot of pain.
Don't straddle now.
Sitting on the fence causes a lot of pain, especially if it's a pointed fence, if you know what I mean.
I like it because, we're not talking about it very rarely is something that is done by the highest of quality players. Usually it's known as a second chance. There's a lot of good
players that are transferring for whatever reason when they become grad transfers. What I don't understand is if you're a good player and you're playing at a school and you become a grad transfer eligible, why you would want to leave. For example, Donnell at Clemson, he left. I have to go back and check his stats to see how much he was contributing at Michigan.
It wasn't much.
But he left there, a team that, maybe he couldn't foresee that team making it to the national championship game as they did this season. But you missed out on a golden opportunity to grab the ring. Of course, at Clemson, he helped them get to the Sweet 16, and maybe he felt like that was the proper route for him to go at that particular time.
His minutes had decreased from his junior season to his senior season by about 7 per game. Also made about field goal and a half less per game. He ended up not necessarily playing much more at Clemson, but I guess, for one reason or another, I guess fell out of favor.
But he
had started 25 games his junior season, did not start his senior season.
You follow like Jeff Goodman or, one of the Jeff Borzillo, one of the guys that covers college basketball, and they're tracing all these transfers. It's mind-boggling how many grad transfers are out there. Now, some of them, I understand if you're buried on the bench, like the backup point guard at Oklahoma, for example. But now there's an opening there at Oklahoma because, the stud freshman's moving on to the NBA. You've got a chance to get that job, yet you've already put your name out there as a grad transfer to go somewhere else.
What's fascinating is now we have one and done on both ends.
Yeah.
You have the freshman coming in, and some coaches like Frank Martin probably says, oh, yeah, I'm for one and done, especially if the guy has a lot of experience and knows what he's doing.
That's the thing. Think about a guy like Frank Booker. He left Oklahoma to try and get new pastures at FAU, and then things didn't work out in his favor at FAU, and he comes to South Carolina and he becomes a starter. I think there should be room for guys like that.
That's the other part where, on the one hand, I don't like to see chaos and the Wild West in college sports in terms of recruiting. On the other hand, I can understand, too, an older guy who's gotten his degree, who's buried on the bench or is unhappy with something, maybe a change in coaches or whatever, and he wants to get one more year and a fresh start somewhere else with a chance to play. I can understand the desire to want to do that, and I don't think I'm really not opposed to that individual being hindered in doing so.
You'd want some more restrictions on the process, possibly, is what you're saying?
Here is the downside of it. In January, assistant coaches on college staffs all over the country, what are they doing? They are inspecting rosters across the country, both at the high level and the low level. Okay, at the low level, it's like, okay, who's going to be a grad transfer and who's doing well? And you start somehow behind the scenes, you start, sending out feelers or whatever. And then you look at the high level schools where you got grad transfers who aren't playing, who might be able to help you maybe as a starter or a key backup. And, the word gets out that you're looking, it becomes a whole nother level of recruiting, which was not the idea when the rule was written. The rule was written to give these guys a chance to go get their degree in a major that wasn't offered at their school. That was the whole idea, not to transfer to improve your athletic opportunities.
But you knew that was going to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything.
Law of unintended consequences.
Everything in college sports recruiting at some point or another gets abused. Even the good rules get abused.
Well, it gets used. And let's face it, it's a domino thing. Because, for instance, let's take a look at Frank Martin, for instance. He's recruiting a lot of good guards out of the state of South Carolina during this process for 2019. And then he'll think, wait a minute, there's a good freshman I can get right now. But I'll tell you what, if I get a grad student and fill that scholarship, he'll give me instant gratification. And then he's gone the next year, and that opens up for that kid I want from South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to look at your rosters almost like a pro football team. Let's sign him to a one-year deal, and then we'll bring the other guy in.
Well, I mean, think about some of these guys who are coming in. A lot of them are basically, like you said, one-year Band-Aids. I mean, I think about, what Frank Booker and Wesley Myers meant to the South Carolina basketball team. What would that team have looked like without those two guys? That would have been scary.
Well, especially with the injuries and the suspension and all that kind of stuff. But look at Clemson. I mean, Clemson has relied heavily and successfully, as it turned out, on the transfer market, not just the grad transfer market. They haven't hit that up extremely hard. I guess Donald was the one grad transfer that they had. But you look at the other transfers, Shelton Mitchell transfer, Marquise Reed transfer, Thomas transfer, transfer from Valpo, Skara transfer.
You mentioned Marquise Reed as well.
Yeah. So what Brownell realizes that, and if you didn't realize it now, you realize it after Zion Williamson. Clemson, it is tough to go head to head with the other marquee teams in the ACC and win those top 15, top 20 recruiting battles, but you can get a good player on the rebound. And it didn't work out well early. Remember, they struggled.
Yes.
The first year in particular, and then last year before this past season, of course, they made the NIT, but they were one and done. But this year, it all came together as those guys had been together now 2 or 3 years. And not only did they continue to play at their high level offensively, they finally started playing defense the way Brownell has always preached defense. He didn't get that from those guys the first couple of years, and it paid off in a big way this year. All right, we'll be right back. More sports talk in a moment.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
All right, big weekend, of course, for USC women's basketball star Asia Wilson as she pulls in the rest of the remaining hardware out there.
I don't think that there's an award she didn't win, honestly.
And they honored her today over at the Colonial Life Arena by presenting to the public the awards that she had received, the Naismith, the Wooden, and everything else that she's gotten.
Wade Award.
And then coming up, I think it's later this week, is the WNBA draft.
Yes.
And she'll be able to cash in literally on her talents as the first pick in the WNBA draft, and leaves behind one heck of a legacy as a women's basketball player at South Carolina, and one huge hole for Dawn Staley to fill in the middle of her lineup. And we'll see how well she's able to do that moving forward.
Well, you know, the good thing about it is she came to South Carolina, because if she'd have gone to UConn, they'd have shut down women's basketball.
Right.
I mean, that team.
Well, how much better could she have made UConn?
They would have won. They would have won the last two national championships.
I said they probably would have beaten Mississippi State.
There's no guarantee, as we've seen. There's no guarantee.
No,
as great as that team was, they couldn't win it all. They're going to look back and go, how in the world did we not win national championships those 2 years?
We talk about the law of unintended consequences, and I think the unfortunate part is that she helped raise the expectation level of South Carolina women's basketball to the point of, we want to contend for an SEC championship and get to the NCAA tournament, to we expect to contend for national championships every season. And I think that to expect the same kind of output without her would be a tad disingenuous. Not to say that that's not something to aspire to, but it is going to be incredibly, incredibly hard to replace that output with one player, with two players, with three players. Dawn Staley has probably the toughest recruiting job over the next year, 2, 3, to try and replace what she brought to this program.
Well, you know, the thing about it is we're going to find out how, you know, adroit her coaching staff is, because they're going to have to be guard heavy early while they develop a front court. And it's been done before. If you see it in men's level, there were years when Duke was heavy in the front court, and then that next year they were all three-point shooters because he just didn't have Coach K didn't have the shooters. So you got to be adroit on your feet as a coach to see where your talent lies, and then have your system adjusted to that talent.
While we're talking women's basketball here, now I don't know how accurate this is. This is a tweet I saw over the weekend from an outfit called the Ball Out Media. Okay, I have no idea. They've got 210 followers. Not that you judge anything by the number of followers. Maybe they're new. Apparently, they follow women's basketball, but they had a little note in here talking about the Texas Tech coach, Marlene Stalling.
Heard of her.
And let's see here. Texas Tech. Oh, it's the Texas Tech job is hers to turn down. Where is she from, Marlene Stalling? Not that I care. But here's the other point I want to make. This website also wrote, Charlotte Smith has pulled out of the Clemson running. I have no idea who Charlotte Smith is. And they continue by saying, here's a fact. Clemson isn't paying, offering only $350K. I guess that's per year.
It's not a very attractive salary.
But I don't know who Charlotte Smith is. You want to do a quick Google on Charlotte Smith? I have no idea who Charlotte Smith is.
Is a retired American professional women's basketball coach for the Charlotte Sting.
Yeah, she played for the Sting, the Mystics, and the Fever. Has Shelby, North Carolina roots.
She's from Chapel Hill. She played in North Carolina.
Yeah, played at UNC.
Where's she coaching now? Is she a coach or just a former player?
She is a coach currently at Elon.
Okay.
She is the head coach of Elon.
Radakovich really reaching high there, boy, all the way up to Elon.
They went they went to the tournament this past year.
Oh,
or 2 years ago.
I'm not saying she couldn't be a good coach, but all right. So Masters, Patrick Reed, the winner, I guess popular to some degree in his immediate gathering of people, but not popular in some areas.
Not exactly, Corn. Basically spoke very highly about the fact that, very much about the fact that not only he was looked at despite having the 54-hole lead as the underdog, but how much he used that to his advantage.
When I step up here and I was going Sunday lead and listen to all the analysts this morning as I was watching the golf, and every single one of them picked Rory except me, besides for Noda. Thanks, Noda. I appreciate it. You're my boy. It's just kind of one of those things that it just seemed like the pressure at that point was kind of lifted off. No one expects me to go out and win. I expect myself to go out and win. My family and I believe that we need to go out there and I can win the golf tournament. And it just seemed like everyone else was saying how great I was playing all week, how very impressed they were. But then, come Saturday night and Sunday morning, they're like, oh, well, even though we said all these great things about how he's playing, we think Rory's going to win. And, up to the first tee, I had a really welcoming cheer from the fans. But then when Rory walked up to the tee, his cheer was a little louder. But, that's another thing. It just kind of played into my hand.
Just to follow that up, do you wish you were more popular with the fans, or is it something you've turned to your advantage?
No, I don't think it's really as much of a popularity thing with the fans as is that Rory's been in this position before to win here. And, he's played some really solid golf here. And, a lot of people are wanting him to win, to get that career Grand Slam. It's just nature. And honestly, to me, it was just go out there and play golf. Whether they're all cheering for me, it almost felt like a Ryder Cup. You had, when I was overseas, they will cheer for good golf no matter what. And it's the same thing here. If you hit quality golf shots, they're going to cheer. But if two guys hit the same exact shots, whoever's the home guy is going to get louder cheers. And, for Rory being in the position, trying to win here in the past and, having some success here, it didn't surprise me that the fans were cheering for him in the beginning.
Now, looking back, do you regret in any way saying you were top 5, making that comment, or did you just validate it today?
No, honestly, I don't ever regret anything I would say. I stand by my comments. I feel like that I've played some golf that I need to play in order to get to where I want to be, and that's to be the best golfer in the world. And but the way you're going to do that is perform in these big events and to win these big events. And I'm just happy to be up here and be able to say I've gotten over that hump of not winning it all last year. Coming into the year, it's one of my biggest goals was to compete in a major and to win golf tournaments. And, to be able to kind of get them both at once to end the drought and win a major, just, it helps me mentally and also, helps my resume. And hopefully I can just, take this momentum going forward and play some really solid golf.
Patrick, your Augusta roots run pretty deep. I'm just wondering if it's bittersweet not to be able to share this moment with your parents and your sister.
I'm just out here to play golf, try to win golf tournaments.
Well, yeah, he's not trying to please anybody but himself, and I guess his wife and her family, and his immediate close friends, whoever they happen to be. And it's a shame on the one hand that his victory somewhat overshadowed now by all these questions about how he feels he's being received by the fans, being treated by the fans, his family issues and all that. The guy just won the Masters. He just won the greatest golf tournament in the world.
I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing him, though, but is that not all self-brought about? Isn't it? But
his past is his past. He didn't murder anybody, and
no.
He did some things that I'm sure he regrets doing. Maybe, obviously, he was an immature guy at one point in time, and his family issues are his family issues, and I'm not sure that his soul should be cut open for all to see here on a Sunday night after winning the greatest golf tournament in the world.
These individual sports are such. You look no further than Tiger Woods. The fact that a lot of these guys, if they have personal issues, they are brought to the forefront, especially if you succeed on the highest level.
But you know what?
Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent.
How many of those same reporters would have drilled Tiger about his personal missteps after he won the Masters?
I'm sure a lot of them would have.
You think? They wouldn't have gotten very far. The protective coat around Tiger, that shell was hard to penetrate back in those days, and
it's a
still
self-fulfilling
is.
prophecy.
Especially with that Nike swoosh there.
Be right back. Welcome back into Sports Talk, everybody. South Carolina Radio Network. We invite you to check out foundersfcu.com. Learn how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. Well, we're waiting on the announcement from Sam Howell. Oh, here it is. He has committed to Florida State.
Oh.
How about that? Just looking at his tweet, which just came out. With that being said, I am proud to commit to Florida State. Is sort of how he wrapped the thing up with a picture of him in a Florida State jersey.
But my biggest question is this. Did he do a big video and make people wait for the end?
No. He just put a Twitter thing out there.
Did he do respect my decision, no interviews, please?
He did not. He just said, first of all, I'd like to thank God for blessing me with the talent and the ability to play the game I love.
Of course.
I would like to thank all the coaches that have recruited me and believed in me all along the way. I would like to thank all of my teammates and all of my coaches I've had. None of this would be possible without them, and blah, 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 blah. Thanked his parents. And then with that being said, I am proud to announce my commitment to Coach Taggart and Florida State. You know, this was a player that Clemson was in on very early and heavily. I got to believe, though, in our last interview with him, he did not sound alarmed about Trevor Lawrence's existence at Clemson for at least the next 3 years. But this is where Clemson will be hard-pressed to find a big-time quarterback who wants to come in and sit for a couple of years, in all likelihood.
You want to get a quarterback in every class. It's just it's the one position you recruit every year, regardless of your depth. But everyone looks at that room and they see how crowded it is. I mean, they don't count out Hunter Johnson, and Chase Bryce is still there. Chase Bryce is a guy who, I'm not saying he could play for every school in the country, but he's someone who is probably foregoing a lot of other opportunities to be basically in that very crowded room.
Let's go to Daniel in Charleston. Then we're going to catch up with Dabo Sweeney. Hello, Daniel. And yeah, that's right, Daniel, right? Yeah, Daniel, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, thank you. I wanted to comment about, this Patrick Reed situation with them bringing up his past. I think it is, it's blatant opportunism, and I think it's a shame that they're going to drag somebody's name through the mud. They did the same thing to Shaun White after he got his gold medal this past Olympics. That court case was over and done with months ahead of time, but the minute he wins the gold medal and he's back in the headlines, they're like, oh, yeah, now let's fling a bunch of mud at him and get as many Twitter clicks as we can, And I just think it's a shame that they're going to ruin these guys' spotlight for something that they've already, paid for, and it's behind them. Now's not the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't know the background, and thank you, Daniel. I didn't know the background of Patrick Reed. I have not investigated Patrick Reed or followed his career all that much. And so when I saw the Shipnuck story last night, I think it was, I did retweet it because I thought it was a very interesting read. In retrospect, I mean, I don't regret doing that, but in retrospect, I do feel for the guy having to take this glorious moment of achievement in golf and have it basically set aside to have to deal with questions about his background and his family. And again, I mean, the guy he's not on parole. He's not out of jail or anything like that. He was free and clear to play in the Masters and compete, and he won. And things get twisted away. You get off topic and you get on to the, like this caller said, the more sordid things that people want to read and click on Twitter headlines about, and that's how they make their notoriety. And I guess I'm guilty of that because I clicked on the headlines with that story because I didn't know anything about his background.
Listen, this is what it just comes down to, okay? It comes down to the people who were there are reporting on the story. And I think the biggest story is that this man, for one reason or another, or for whatever reason you want to cite, whether it's his personal past, whether it's his past with involving interaction with other golfers, he has had a frayed past. And when you become accomplished and when you have an accomplishment, that unfortunately opens the door to other things. People want to know, well, why was the reaction for him so muted? Well, why, when it came to one, people were rooting more for Rory than they were for him? I mean, this guy is an American in the American major, other than the U.S. Open.
Personally, to me, I think the big story is, again, you're talking about personal stuff, not illegal stuff or anything like that. The big story was he nearly became the first to ever post sub 70 scores in the Masters. He just missed that. He won the Masters. That should be the big story. Now, I know when you have an open press conference, you're open for all kinds of questions, and writers all around the world are there, and they're seeking different stories and different lines to follow. And I guess there's no such thing as what's appropriate and what's not. I'm the first one to say there's no such thing as a bad question. I just hate it for the guy that he had to suffer through that at the time of his professional peak His story, apparently, for those who know and follow golf, see, this is what happens. You've got people who cover golf one time a year.
Yeah, they're people parachuting in.
Right. And they jump in and they've got to have this story told.
Right.
People who follow golf every day and every week obviously know the story and know everything that's been going on in his background. It's a shame that the win is tainted because of something so many years ago in his life that he's trying to move away from. It's his personal business. I mean, if he's separated from his family for whatever reason, that's his personal business.
Think about what your quarterback Aaron Rodgers, when his brother
don't bring him into this.
When his brother became very prominent with the stuff going on with The Bachelor, that was a big storyline for an annoyingly long time.
Well, what was the problem? Yeah. I think A-Rod does okay on his own.
I'm not saying he doesn't, but I'm just saying when his brother became The Bachelor, that was, again, about a months-long storyline, and they were bringing his girlfriend into the mix. I mean, when you are an athlete and when you are prominent, when you're a public figure, this is the kind of, quote, unfortunate stuff that gets brought into the fray.
Really?
That would be, let me just say this. That would be, okay, I understand what you're saying, but that would be like on the podium after winning the Super Bowl, somebody brings up the line of questioning about his brother and your separation from your family and all that kind of stuff.
Let me draw a similar comparison. The Pete Rose interview with Jim Gray after the All-Century team. Would you call that inappropriate?
See, that's, again, I've always believed
kind of the same thing.
I've always believed if you're open to a press conference and you're taking questions, you're open for everything. But you as the reporter, in the case of Jim Gray, in that setting with Pete Rose, I mean, it got Jim Gray a ton of notoriety, positively and negatively.
Yes.
I'm not even sure if it didn't boost his career at that point in time. Maybe a lot of people didn't know about Jim Gray. I mean, I don't know that I would have gone there with that line of questioning in that setting. I mean, there are times when everything is open on the table, and there are other times
when would he have gotten another chance to ask that question?
But here's the problem. He asked that question because he is Jim Gray. It's almost like, that's a Jim Gray question. He's going for the throat. But getting back to Reed, I thought, see, when the questions get tough, I'm not so worried about who asked the question. I'm worried about how the guy handled it. I think he handled it with aplomb. He said what he was going to say, and he said that, look, when things get a little bit negative, I don't get the notoriety I get. I use that to my advantage. See how you can use something negative to your advantage. And as I said before, I think people these days, for several reasons, like a guy with some ghosts in the closet for whatever reason. Because I have ghosts. Everybody will sit there, I have ghosts. I want to see some guy who wins, who's not Mr. Goody Two-Shoes.
There is an attractiveness to vulnerability.
Yes.
More so in this day and age than ever before.
Well, there's a new Tiger Woods book out.
Yeah.
That is supposed to trump all the other Tiger Woods books.
Armin Contain. You want
him? Yeah. There's a you
want to have him on?
There's a
good friend.
It's a double author, right? There's somebody else who worked with him on that.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to they went about it in a different way than some of the other biographies on Tiger based on the people they talked to, and they claim to have broken kind of that shell around Tiger and giving you the true insight story about Tiger and why he is the way he is in terms of how he deals with publicity and how he deals with people and how he handles himself around the golf course. It'd be an interesting read. I want to perhaps take a look at that. And no, I'm not interested in having Mr. Katayan.
You don't want Armin Katayan? I can get you
I'm
Armin
sure
Katayan.
Can you get me Tiger?
I could not get you Tiger.
Well, then you got nothing.
I can get you one within Tiger. How about that?
You got nothing in that goldfish bowl, man.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
All right, Clemson continuing with spring practice. A workout today, another workout on Wednesday, and the Tigers then will wrap it up with their spring game on Saturday. And so just a little while ago, after the Tigers practice today, Dabo Sweeney got together with the media up there to update everybody on what he saw in practice today.
This was probably our best day overall, to be honest with you. We actually did a lot of we usually do ones-on-ones all the time, but we actually did a lot of so-called twos-on-ones. I don't like for them to think of themselves as a two or three. I just want them to be all Clemson players because they don't hold a sign up when you sub and say, okay, we're putting a two in. Doesn't work that way. But I thought today was one of the most competitive days we've had, and we mixed it up a lot with the ones and twos. But we did some open field stuff and hit all the field zones, and then finished up with a couple of situations that we needed to work on today. We did two milk clock situations. So defense has got 2 timeouts. They're behind. They're trying to get the ball back. Offense knows the defense has 2 timeouts. They're ahead. They're trying to milk the clock. So just all the mechanics of that situation. Then we worked an end of the game situation where the offense needs a touchdown to win it. So they're 4-down territory all the way. And defense, knows that, so they're trying to get a stop. Offense trying to go win. So just a couple of end of the game situations that we needed to cover today. And then we got a little kicking, got a kickoff, got a punt, got a punt return, worked a few little field goal. Got Hugo back in there today as well. So it was good. The fewest reps scrimmage wise of the scrimmages we've had, but probably still was somewhere up there in that 50 play range.
How's your health going into the spring game?
Team's good spot. We got a few guys that are banged up. This will be big these next couple of days. We held Choice out today. He got a little dinged up the other day. Muse today. So we got 2 or 3 guys that we held today that I hope will be ready to go for the game on Saturday. So tomorrow is just a meeting day. Wednesday will be our mandated 3rd day in shorts. And we always save that day for the last week so that we can use it to teach, kind of teach them the way they need to self-manage things in the summer. And we'll get some little teamwork too, but really a lot of coaching for what they got to do. And then we'll split the team because it takes a little while to get organized. I mean, this thing's on it's on ESPN, so you don't want to look like the village idiot running out there. So we got to get organized and. It's special teams and substitutions. It's coaching staffs are split. So just get everybody in their right roles and so that we can, look like we know what we're doing somewhat out there. But I'm excited about the game. I really am. I'm as excited about this spring game as I have been for any of them, just because the amount of numbers that we have. We got a lot of guys. I think I'm anxious. Tomorrow we'll meet in the morning. And, I'm anxious to see how the coaches have split each of their segments. Because they don't know how it's, I split the staff tomorrow afternoon, and they have no idea what team they're going to get or what. So they have to split their group very evenly. So then we'll make sure we get that right, and then we'll get together again on Wednesday, and we'll flip for it and name the head coaches and get staffs all set. But it should be a very good game. And
all right, Dabo from practice earlier today, and he takes spring games pretty seriously. He likes to put on a good show. He likes to split the team up, try and have some good on good, have a little balance out there. Yet, they're on the field. It's not like he's sitting up in the press box and all that. He's on the field. His coaches are on the field. They're treating it like a practice and like a scrimmage, and they're out there still trying to instruct in what is their 15th and final spring practice.
Well, Corn, this is as important as anything because, they don't get a preseason. They don't get to play, against another squad. When they line it up on September the 2nd, it's 0-0 against Coastal Carolina, and it's for real. It's on.
Well, they're playing Furman.
Whatever.
I hear your comment dripping with sarcasm.
Was that sarcasm?
Yes.
That's how that works.
Sometimes your sarcasm is lost in your attempt at humor.
It's called dark humor.
Yeah. Well, Dabo is serious about the approach to the spring game. I mean, he doesn't.
It's as if he's the only person that goes through that plight. That everybody else is in the same boat.
Well, do you believe? I just think coaches are paranoid about playing another team. They don't want.
Coaches are paranoid of their own damn shadow.
They're going to bring all their recruits in, go to the spring game, and it's all about the orange and the tiger paw, and no other team needs to be in there. I don't.
So you're opposed to having other teams coming in to play.
I'm saying that's what coaches would say.
Listen,
that would be, you know what, that would be something of a concern. How would you deal with the recruiting side of it if you were to, let's say Clemson were to play Georgia in a spring game in years when they not playing each other in the regular season, and you want to bring in recruits? Well, a lot of those recruits are also looking at Georgia. And you might end up having some of those guys watching Georgia more than they're watching you.
This is the way you treat it. You treat it like you would your FCS regular season game. You reserve it for that particular situation, and you don't bring in someone who's a like opponent in that regard. And the other part of this too, again, it like when I used to cover the NFL, they would bring in other teams to have joint practices and have joint scrimmages. They would be in front of fans, in front of television cameras. There would be no restrictions. You could watch every single thing, media, fans, everything. These teams in the NFL, they don't care what other people see, because you know what? A lot of them run the same damn stuff.
Yeah, but you can't. First of all, look, you can't compare college and NFL. NFL, they can trade you, they can cut you. You can't do that in college. You can't trade a guy. You don't like your left tackle, go out and acquire.
What does that have to do with the paranoia?
Can't they do it like they do in college?
Whoa, paranoia. There's plenty of paranoia around the NFL.
I'm not saying there isn't, but
they all think that Belichick is cheating and spying on them.
But they don't extend it to this level that the collegiate coaches do.
The only thing I would say is if Dabo wants, or any other coach wants, to play a team, do like they do in college basketball. Remember, wink, wink. We played so-and-so team the other day. Go to some high school stadium way out in the country, and then y'all
they're not going to miss a chance to make a dime.
They're
not going to miss a chance to make a dime.
That's the issue.
And how they don't charge for the spring game.
A lot of places they don't. Some places they do a little like can donation.
But if they were to play, let's just say a Clemson, Georgia spring game, and you charge $10 a ticket, first come, first serve.
A lot of people would sign up for that. A lot of people would sign up for that.
How much money would you make? And you do it home and home. So you'll play at Clemson. Yes. You'll play at and South Carolina could do it with, say, Virginia Tech. Play at Columbia one year, play at Virginia Tech the next year. You keep all the money. Maybe just a little bit for travel expense.
I see.
Here's the other part of that too. Here's the other part
with that.
When you play a spring game against yourself, your team is at 100% liability in terms of injury, because anybody gets hurt is your guy. If you're playing an opponent's, only half your team, for example, your offense is on the field against their defense. Well, your chance of injury to somebody on your team is cut significantly, because you only have 11 of yours on the field at that time versus 22 at all times.
Here's the difference. Okay, you could play a controlled scrimmage, play to thud, don't play till a full tackle. And that would be more compelling than the product they put out there now. But it still would be more compelling than the product they put out there now.
Then again, Clemson spring games in the past have been.
If you're really worried about injury.
So you weren't here when Chad Kelly had his explosion on the sideline at a Clemson spring game in his last few days at Clemson, right? K-Mac covered that. I wasn't there for that. He got upset over, I think, being taken out of the spring game and went haywire
and
against
also
the offensive coaches on the sideline.
There
was Muschamp talking about Perry Orth. They went live, I guess, in a scrimmage or a spring game or whatever, and he broke his collarbone or something like that. Was that Perry Orth or was somebody else? Somebody he was talking about some quarterback when they went live, whether it was a spring game or a scrimmage, and he ended up with
I think it was Scarnecchia.
Some sort of.
I don't think it was Perry Orth.
He talked about it a couple weeks ago. I forget who it was, but again, similar thing. It's like you're always open to these types of things and these types of risks. That's what football is.
Braves are losing to Washington 2-0. So things are back to normal.
Who do you root for in that?
In Braves land.
Who do you root for in that?
All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow from Augusta.
Somewhere
Have yourself a nice trip. Thank you, Brian. Good seeing you once again. Thank you, Pro. Good to be with you. And thanks to everyone for being with us. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
It was Perry Orth, but he said it in one.